Hi, everybody. Welcome to Alexis Rhone Fancher's keynote reading on the third weekend of Culture on Saturday evening. Alexis, a lot of you met earlier at her workshop where she taught us to write about sex. Now she's going to read about sex. She is one of LA's central poets and runs what I would think of as LA's central literary website called Cultural Daily. All right, Alexis.
Hi, thank you. So pleased to be back. I'm going to start out with something really salacious. If you don't leave after this one, I guess you're here for the duration. It's called Porn on the 4th of July. I like a man who can keep the party going, I say, nodding my head in sync with the actor's white ass as it pumps up and down. We're watching French porn again, making fun of the way they use spit instead of lube. French lube, we joke, unable to look away as the well-hung man hawks a loogie into an actress's lady parts. Aside from that, I like the French, the men who stay hard for hours, the women who murmur we with every stroke, like they can't get enough. Outside too, it's steamy. The windows open to the sulphurous air. The night is rife with holiday pandemonium, and we can see the fireworks from here, golden chrysanthemums, shrieking croissettes, and diadems bursting. The neighborhood dogs staccato their non-stop howl, and when my lover ignites me, I join them in a high-pitched chorus. Each day, my love finds new porn to tempt me. He knows what I like, twosomes or threesomes. No tattoos, no bondage, no brutality or handcuffs. Last week, he introduced me to Japanese metro porn, how the schoolgirl giggles behind her hand when the stranger lifts her skirt, salarymen surrounding the fornicating couple, oblivious. You're a fool for love, my lover says, and I say, we. Outside, too, they're reaching for the finale. Cherry bombs scar the dark. Oh, that's me, going off like Roman candles, howling louder than the dogs. Thank you. All right, you're still here. Let's see what happens.
Hot stuff.
Thank you. Midnight in the Backyard of Lust and Longing. This was published in Slipstream a couple of years back. And if someone doesn't know, a sappist is a lesbian. All right, here we go. The saphists are at it again. Screw yous ricochet off our common walls. Invectives landmine my window. You cheating bitch, like clockwork. This drunken Friday night climax to their ceaseless lovers' quarrel. I'll kill you, I hear the big one growl, and then the smashed plates, the screams. By the time the cops arrive, it's a full-out brawl. The two women spilling from their back door, tussling across the no man's land between their tiny backyard and mine. Worse than animals. This time it's Holly, the younger one, dragged to the patrol car, yellow hair wilding, small hands cuffed behind her back, kicking at the cops in those Daisy Dukes, an army jacket wafting her silhouette. It's almost dawn, and the trees shiver in the fog. Raccoons slink through the tall grass. Marie, Holly's better half, paces the yard in a blue bathrobe and slippers, smoking a cigarette, sobbing as the cops jam her lover into their car. Watch her head, she cries, and flings herself across the yard, lunges for Holly through the glass. Baby, baby, she sobs, the reason for their discord forgotten. Holly mouths a sloppy kiss. Marie opens her robe, presses herself against the glass. Can you believe it? I would do anything to be loved like that. Thank you. This is an old one. This is from my first book, How I Lost My Virginity to Michael Cohen. And it's called This Is Not a Poem. And it was a very early love poem to my husband. This is not a poem. Bam. This is an assault on your senses, a rape of your status quo. This is not a poem, not some trendy leopard print, not a polka dot parade. No, you do not smell hot dogs, cotton candy, or frankincense. The myrrh has left the building. This is not a poem. It's an anthem, a declaration of non-compliance, a liberation proclamation. Snap, snap. This is not a poem. It's a love song, a torch song, a song of myself and not you. No tears, got it? Don't act like a girl. Blow your nose, wipe your eyes. Don't make yourself look stupid. This is not a poem. No, it isn't good enough. No, I've read poems and it is not the same. Snap, snap. This is not a poem. It's a hip hop of my own creation, a celebration of my brains, my breasts, my underground caverns. This is not a poem. It's a rite of passage, a starry night, a reluctant homage to your name spelled out in lonely Broadway lights. My life goes dark without you, honey. Clap, clap. This is not a poem. You, with your lust, with your X-ray eyes, listen up now. Be careful how you love me. Be grateful for second chances. Don't push too hard. I might surprise you. You'll see, I'm tougher than I look. I eat Bukowski for breakfast. That still works, you know. This was nominated last year for Best of the Net from the Harbor Review. Yeah, yay. And it's one of my personal favorites. It's called Power Play. When my lover tells me I cannot say no and I protest, she parts my legs, says, yes, baby, yes. I do what I'm told. No becomes a foreign country. I take it as permission, open season. So when the waiter asks if there'll be anything else, I peruse his menu. And when the Lyft driver seduces me in the rear view, eyes me like prey, asks, may I kiss you? I say, yes. And when the long-legged woman I've long lusted after at the gym wonders aloud if I'm single, asks me to dinner and a movie, I say, yes. And when she invites me into her bed, what can I say but yes, yes, yes? And when my fan in Nova Scotia begs me to be his muse, to sanction an explicit ode to my breasts, my ankles, my lower lip, a poem he'd never show his wife, I cannot say no to his lust and delusion. Now he wants to climb me, sublime me, shoot me full of stars. Is this what you want to, he asks, and I answer, yes. And when I return to my lover at last, and she sinks into the heady dampness between my thighs, looks up at me and asks, have you been faithful? I say, yes. That's it. Thank you. This is called Thin Skinned. You called it the winter of oranges, that February into March when our love was new and the downtown farmers market sold thin-skinned navel oranges for cheap. You'd grab our reusable bags and head for Fifth Street, sampling each farmer's juicy segments before bringing home a 10-pound sack. I'd never tasted such consistent sweetness, orange to orange, sack to sack, week to week, like nature had conspired to make every orange equal. Bursting they were, skin too thin to peel with fingers. They needed a sharp knife to slice them smartly into quarters or peel them whole, rind a single perfect spiral, a three-way, between peel, pith, and fruit. That winter, you squeezed the juice into goblets overflowing. You poured your love into me. But spring came. The knife bled. Something stupid, I said. You and the oranges turned bitter overnight. Sad. This is brand new. It's unpublished. It's called How to Eat an Artichoke. Look, he said, eating an artichoke is like eating a woman. He held the barbed vegetable up to the light. See these, he said, pointing to the tough outer petals crowned with thorns. Think of them as labia, how like sentries they guard the succulent center. I watched him tug downward, severing petals from their source. He dipped each one into a bowl of melted butter, put it between his front teeth, and scraped the tender bottom into his mouth. I watched as he worked his way around the world, tug, dip, nibble, tug, dip, scrape, and the satisfaction on his face growing with each denuded petal, petals that grew softer as he worked his way in. Once the barriers had been breached, pluck the inner petals, he said. I watched him souse them, bring them to his mouth, watch the butter trickle down his chin. Nibble at them like they're your girlfriend, he said. Note the pleasure of the pulp in your mouth, the taste of butter and sea salt on your lips, how you tongue your way to the center. When the petals disappear, you must stop and take stock. Note how the furry choke hides the treasure beneath. Spoon it out little by little until you've revealed the light green center. Go ahead, cover it with what butter remains, then bite into its heart. So I read this poem at an outdoor reading, my first in public reading. I guess it was maybe July, and it was outdoors and there was all these lovely people. And at the end, this woman came up and bought my book. And she said, is the artichoke poem in it? And I said, no, it's unpublished. And she said, but I want to read this to my new boyfriend. Well, I fuck him. So I gave her the poem. I just took it out of my thing and I signed it to her and said, here. It turned out she knows Nicole Davis. So talk about a small world. Anyway, so that was that. Oh, this one's good. It's called Don't Wash. I'm returning in 3 days. Don't wash. This was a quote from a love letter Napoleon sent to Josephine. I touch myself so I can savvy what you rut in. Bring my fingers to my mouth. Imagine you in our bed, returned from the 3-day fray, redolent of the weight of the world, and me, your dirty, dirty girl, naked, eager, as you make your way down, breathing in my hair, my lips, the sweet spot where neck meets collarbone. I've made a religion of your fantasies, a science of what you desire, that ferine moan, my always startled gasp at first thrust. I angle, cocked hips a bit askew, how I arch for maximum penetration, hands pushing against your chest while my thighs pull you in. Our bed is a rocket launch, a bacchanal, a pelican steep dive into the sea. I revel in that you revel in me. A lifetime away from Michael, my first love, that long ago when I'd used the freshening wipe before I arrived so as not to offend. I'd spread myself wide on the bed, confident, watching the top of his head, black curls, as he explored me. That fear of being, not being summer's eve fresh, worried my pussy might disenchant the musk of me, all wiped away. He raised his head. Next time, Michael said, don't wash. Thank you. This one's called Domestic Violence. It was for a anthology, and everyone had to use this one phrase. And the phrase I started out the poem with, knives cut both bread and throats, he warns. The stiletto steel tip teasing my trachea, a love tap. I'm used to it. I don't react anymore. I bake. I knead, pound the dough instead of him. Each day when he leaves for court, those $2,000 suits camouflaging his viciousness, a brief reprise. I envision his face in the smackdown dough, push out the air pockets, dream of suffocation. I slap him, punch him, only to watch him rise. While he proofs, I look for loopholes, binge watch forensic files. It's endless stories of stymied desire, hour after hour of scheme and kill, each murder more gruesome, honed. I take notes, stick in a shiv to see if he's done, plot that he comes to a similar bad end. I shape loaves like alibis, knife notched before they go into the oven, frenzied jabs and slices. I sharpen the blade, ready for his return. Like him, I'll never speak without a lawyer present. Okay. This is called Boy Toy. This is one of my sister poems, of which there are probably 12. Boy Toy, learning to share. I stood in the doorway and watched Davy fuck my sister by candlelight. He never fucked me by candlelight. Their shadows conjoined, elegant. I was touching myself under my robe when they saw me. 2 against 1, I turned down the hall, turned down a threesome again. I brought him home because he talked like Davy Jones. I'd always wanted to fuck Davy Jones, so I let him be British all over me. An Anglophile, my roommate, younger sister, blossomed like a petunia. I thought I was learning to share. But that last night, when the sirens raged and the dogs howled in the dark, when love had me suddenly by the throat, and my sister swore she could take him or leave him, how could I ever believe her? Anything I wanted, she wanted. So when he ping-ponged between her bed and mine, I told Davy to wear a condom. I told him I didn't know where she'd been. And when I finally begged Davy to make a choice, I watched his face carefully, ignored the implications of his sigh. She's beautiful, your sister, Davy said as he stroked my thigh. True story, that. I know they're all true, but that one was. This is called Heavyweight Clear Vinyl Shower Curtain. It's another true story. I disturb your shower. Fresh towels, my excuse to watch you stand beneath the spray, water pouring off your hair, trickling down your shoulders, beating your studly chest. Fresh towels, the excuse for my eyes to linger at your soaked up cock, stiff in your hand. I drop the towels, pull off my dress, press myself into the vinyl, cool to the touch. An inspired purchase, I think. You reach for my breast, slather your face between the fogged, wet vinyl and me, mouth my nipples, grip your cock harder, faster. I reach between my legs for my clit, finger myself to match your pace, your hand a blur. When your blue eyes close, I pull my fingers from inside me, push aside the curtain, slide them into your mouth, watch you lick your lips, grin. Sometimes we see right through each other. Tomorrow, I'll give the shower curtain a 5-star Amazon review as the seller, a mom and pop in Idaho, requested, if I'm satisfied. That's the whole poem. Sorry, I like that one. It makes me laugh.
Alexis, I
Mhm.
read that one in my workshop on writing about sex.
I love that, Linda.
I,
Hey,
it's just wonderful. It's
Thank
such
you.
a fun-loving and yet explicit poem. I love it.
well, it's not serious. And I think that's the through line, as I talked about this afternoon. Sex is the most fun you can have without laughing. Cross him off my list. Truthfully, let's have a good time. Other things are serious. This one was actually published in Best American Poetry. It was chosen by Edward Hirsch in 2016. When I turned 14, my mother's sister took me to lunch and said, "Soon you'll have breasts. They'll mushroom on your smooth chest like landmines. A boy will show up as schoolmate or the gardener's son, polecat around you, all brown-eyed persistence. He'll be everything your parents hate, a smart aleck, a dropout, a street racer on the midnight prowl. Even your best friend will call him a loser, but this boy will steal your reason, have you writing his name inside a scarlet heart entwined with misplaced passion and a bungled first kiss. He'll bivouac beneath your window, sweet talk you until you sneak out into his waiting complications. Go ahead, tempt him with your newfound glamour. Tumble into the backseat of his Ford at the top of Mulholland, flushed with stardust, his mouth in a death clamp on your nipple, his worshipful fingers scatting sacraments on your clit. Soon he will deceive you with your younger sister, the girl who once loved you most in the world." Thank you. This is a very early one also, and it sort of got me through the door with poetry, so I continue to love it. It's called Walk All Over You. The stiletto boots in the back of my closet are restless, long to stroll the 3rd Street promenade, looking for a silk bustier, a Louis Vuitton bag, a lover who won't let me down. The stiletto boots in the back of my closet want to party, want to grab my feet, climb my calves, hug my thighs. They're ready for action, ready to put on a skin-tight Versace and head for the club. They want to clack on terrazzo floors, totter from great heights, see the world, escape the flats, the Mary Janes, the penny loafers, the two-toned, two-faced saddle Oxfords that guard the closet door. The stiletto boots in the back of my closet want to walk all over you, punish you for cheating, and make you pay. They have a short memory, don't care why they were banished or what you did. They're desperate to reclaim you, dig their heels into your shortcomings, make little marks up and down your libido, and welcome you home. They long to wrap themselves around you, put you in a headlock, rake your thighs, want to lead you into ecstasy, saran wrap, whipped cream, Wesson oil, room service. Remember? My stilettos can't forget you. My stilettos can't move on. My stilettos want to forgive you, even if I cannot. They bear the scuff marks of your betrayal far better than do I. The stiletto boots in the back of my closet are negotiating their release, want me to give you a second chance to trample my heart. Like the last time and the time before, they want to get started, head out the door. Who do you think gave me those fucking boots anyway? Thank you. How we doing on time? You have a little more? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep going.
This is kind of sad. This was written for my best friend Kate, who died of breast cancer 2014. And it was published in Rattle. It's entitled Tonight at Last Call. Jay calls me his brown liquor girl again. His voice, dark urgency, like when we were attached. I let him grip my hips, slow dance me back to that lust, to the parking lot, his car, my tube top of trophy in one hand, a bottle of Southern Comfort in his other. He pours that sweet Joplin down my throat, guides my hands between his legs, drives to the Malibu motel with ocean views, vibrating beds, and once more our delicious thrashing, complimentary KY where the Gideon should be, the insomniac waves rocking us long before my marriage and now after. When I ask him what part of me he loves best, Jay answers, what's missing? Tonguing the place where my nipple had been. He doesn't mind the mastectomy scar, the one my husband can't bring himself to touch. This came out and the husband no longer speaks to me, but let's see.
Alexis, I read that one in my workshop on writing about sex, and also the shower curtain one.
Thank you.
You know, the dark and the light about sexuality.
Thank you. That's very, thank you. That means a lot because you know I love your work. All right, this is really confessional night. This actually happened. I was living at the beach and this guy sort of showed up and looked in my glass house. And the title is When the Handsome, Overgrown Samoan Boy Stands in Front of Your Glass-Walled Beach House in Venice and begins to masturbate, never taking his eyes off you. Lock eyes with your accomplice. This is what comes with glass houses. He will touch himself through denim. His dick will break free of his cut-off jeans, bigger than a cucumber. Don't worry. His eyes will never leave your face. No one will guess your truth. Reach under your skirt, pull aside your panties, touch your rock-hard clit. Watch your reflection in the window glass as the daylight shifts into dusk. Look at his face as you make yourself come. This is how you cope with loss. Yeah, they're not always fun. What can I say? Let's find something fun. Ooh. This is a very sexy one. Very few people would publish it. It got tossed around before someone had the balls. It's called Ce qui importe, which is what matters. How there can be no daylight between us, a magnetic field, a seamless glue. How desire hardwires my nipples, how I want you to bring them to your face. How you nibble my labia, and then there's your tongue like an electric grid. How your fingers zap their way to my center, plugged in like a socket. How your cock bends into me, an over-amping arc. How I straddle your face, legs parted, so you see no light, only me, sticky and juiced. You never know, it's gonna float somebody's boat.
It totally is. Very hot.
Thank you. This is called Three Little Words. 1, M has never said I love you before, not to me. 2, he cries at weddings like a girl. 3, the sex is only good if we're totally fucked up. It blurs how wrong we are for each other. 4, English is not M's native tongue. It eludes him. 5, maybe he misspoke. His prepositions hang mid-air. He says it's hard to think when it's hard. 6, M's white teeth nibble at my clit like a ferret. The 2 front ones indent slightly. It makes him look goofy, like a joke. Sometimes when we have sex, M's calico meow trips across my back, rakes a claw, caterwauls. She doesn't want me there. Sometimes when we have sex, I am the one in heat. 7, outside the tin roof rains suicides on the hard packed earth. M is fucking me from behind, his body melding into my ass, fingers kneading my breasts. He's mumbling up the courage. I know what he's trying to say. I want to fuck him mute. 8, in the bedroom, there's this Dennis Hopper photo of Tuesday Weld driving, top down, blonde hair streaming, circa 1968. She's unfettered. Why can't he see that I am that girl, my top down, my hair streaming, my consequentless life? 9, M bought the print for me, but I don't want it. I want nothing from him but a silent film, a carnival. I want him to want that too. I want him to shut up, but he zeroes in my ear and says it. Okay. All right, maybe 2 more. Is that good? All right. This was in San Pedro River Review 2018. It's called The God for Broken People, and it begins with an epigraph. There is a God for broken people, by Roxane Gay. That was her quote. The God for broken people. This is the God for the second rate, the one who waylays you at the party, plies you with bourbon, fucks you in the kitchen, makes you walk home in the rain. This God shines in the runoff. This God hustles the night. This God minds the maims, cold, emotional cripples off the top like cream. This God is a shape shifter, a dumpster diver, the God who loiters at the corner of Dolorosa and despair. This God drinks alone. This God, the God for broken people, trolls the city for discards, marries the exploited with the lost. This God sweeps up the miscreants, gusts their darkness into light. This is the God of no hope, no money. This God has your back when you backslide. This God bets on you to fail, hides in your broken places. This God is willing to wait. When you're ready to surrender, remember, this is your last best chance. This God will not stick by you, won't give you false hope. This God will kill you or save you. Choose. Okay, one more. Good on time? Yeah, okay. I guess it was a few years back. I got a request from an editor, Grace Bauer, I believe her name is, to write a poem about pussy. And she gave me a list of maybe 30 names for pussy and said, use a couple. So I used them all. And this poem that I'm going to close with is the one that resulted. It was ended up in Nasty Woman Poets. And believe it or not, it was published in the New York Times. And it's called I Prefer Pussy, a Little City Kitty Ditty. I prefer pussy, as in cat, as in willow, as in chases a rat, as in raised on a pillow. I prefer pussy, as in riot, as in foots, as in pussycat doll, as in puss in boots. I prefer pussy as a twat, it is not, nor is it a beaver, a clam, or a cleaver. I prefer pussy to nookie or gash. It isn't a box or a cave or a slash. I prefer pussy to snapper or snatch, far better than taco or slit or man catch. I prefer pussy, though rosebud's not bad, and muffin sounds homey, and cooch makes me glad. I prefer pussy, as in whip, as in flower, as into it you slip, as in I have the power. Thank you very much. Lovely. Wonderful audience. Merci, merci mille fois.
All right, so if anybody has any questions for Alexis, or if you have any comments, great, that'd be a great time.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say we.
Oui. Aside from that, I like the French, you know, the Louis. Cracking up, you know, they don't.
Moi aussi.
Moi aussi, moi je préfère le poussé. Well, thank you. Anyone else have anything interesting to say or questions to ask? I'm an open book, you know.
I don't know if I have anything interesting to say. It's just such a beautiful set, Alexis. Thank you so much. Just knowing your work a little bit, I really admire how you're able to continually walk the line between sex and death. I mean, that's kind of what you're doing. It's incredible. I guess as a fellow, poem maker, how do you do that? Because do you walk? I get the feeling you cook. What do you do? Because that's an intense place to write from. So how do you replenish yourself so you can write from that place?
I fuck a lot. You know, when I first started to read my work out there, you know, semi-professionally, I would read it. This one reading that my teacher and mentor Jack Grapes used to have every 8 weeks at Beyond Baroque, and I would always read these erotic poems, and people would come up and they'd tell me about when they met their first girlfriend in the closet when they were 6 years old, and they showed each other their body parts. And I mean, they just tell me things they would never tell anyone. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then I also write, as Stephanie said, poems about death. My only child, my son Joshua, died at the age of 26 from a very rare and always fatal cancer. I write a lot about dead children. I write a lot about the lack of gun control in this country and how it ends up murdering children. It ends up murdering people. It ends up, you know, with acquittals for people who murder others. You know, and it's a consistent thing. So I went in and I read one of those poems at the Beyond Baroque, and afterwards, at least 7 people came up to me and they said, well, this is a wonderful poem, but it's not why we're here. We're here for the sex poems. We're here to hear the erotic poems. And I really got that, at least at that point, I was on a track to write erotica. acceptable erotica. I would send things to major magazines and they would say, we hate pornography, but we love your work. So I'm like, but you're right. When you come to marrying the two, like the poem about the brown liquor girl, death is haunting that entire thing, but you don't really get it until the last line. And that's the line you walk, for me, it continues to be interesting. I think when it stops, you never know, maybe I'll stop.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for creating that, opening up that space, and for creating so much space for the rest of us to kind of enter it. You're not only an amazing practitioner, but a really incredible pioneer, it seems to me. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. That's lovely. Yay.
I like the melding of the sex and death, or romance and death, something like that. I know I have a poem like that where it talks about my death, but makes it sound in a romantic way, even though it's not a romantic thing per se. So yeah.
Well, how different are they? They talk about an orgasm.
Oh
in
yeah.
French is le petit mort, the little death.
The
Yeah.
little death. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
And
very close.
So, one of the things in my mind when you were reading your more fun poem, which I love also, and I love fun poems about sex. I love any kind of poems about sex or writing of any kind. I mean, that's, the focus of what I do when I teach my workshop. But really, even when it's about the fun, it's about the spectrum of life, that life has fun and death and misery and excitement and everything in between. And, it's funny to me that being in your workshop today and then you're reading tonight and my workshop last weekend, it's like, I've had more sex this week than in the previous year, for sure.
I'm so happy
And,
for you.
I'm sorry to say that because I wish there was more, but there's factors.
Right?
There's factors why that isn't happening. But I'm still interested, and that's why I'm here for these things. But what I love about it is it's the whole spectrum of life, which includes death and which includes sex. And one of my feelings about having sex back in the days when I actually had it was, that's when I'm at my most animal. That's when I'm at my most basic person, without all the stuff that we create about who we are. I mean, it always felt really like nature to me. I'm just acting out nature like eons before me. I don't know. I'm just rambling about that whole thinking, but
we are very much sexual creatures, and some people get that and some people fight against it. But it's our animal nature. And I agree with you, to look at that and really, who are you as an animal? What are your animal desires? What is your nature?
well, it's complicated because we are animals with huge brains.
Yeah.
And, complicated pasts that we bring to our animal coupling or tripling, as the case may be.
No, it's very true. It's very true. What I like to tell my students about writing sex is that for me, I think the way in is to write the space around it. You know what I'm saying? So that there is all of this sort of, and then you're writing the space around it. The little individual things that make it a whole. Other questions?
I
I don't have a question, but I don't think I'll ever forget you or today, because when Stephanie asked a very little question and then you said I fuck a lot, I'm like, wow, that blew me away. That's just
Well,
like,
if I'm not
wow.
as honest as my poems, then who am I?
I love that. I'll never forget that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Cindy. That's great. Yeah. You can't do it if you don't know it, right?
I like the lyricism of the last poem. It actually reminded me of, now I'm blanking on his name, the children's poet, who I'm not a big fan of normally, but I like
Dr.
yours.
Seuss.
Dr. Seuss. It had a Dr.
And
Seuss
I'm
quality.
thrilled. Thank you. I love Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, and I'm not always a fan of his work, but I did like that aspect of the poem.
Well, I don't often write rhyming poetry.
Yeah.
But with this whole page she sent me with all of those words for vagina, and I thought, whoa, and they were all, they had a rhythm to them. And I write lyrics sometimes, like music lyrics, and I just get in that rhythm. And every one of those lines is the same number of beats, and it had a rhythm to it, and it was fun to write. And often I'll go someplace where nobody knows me and they don't know what I'm about or what I'm about to read, and I start with that. And you can see the look on people's faces. They go,
yeah.
And then they kind of chill and just relax, oh, this is not going to be so bad.
Not everybody can put good music in a poem like that, and that one was done well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was a fun poem to do. Anything else I can say or do? John? Anyone? Hi, Nathan, you're back. I loved your work this afternoon. You were terrific.
Oh, thank you.
Really
You said if there's anything you can do, just keep writing. I really liked everything you've done, and all the poems you've read. It's really just star striking, I guess I could say. I have to sit back and absorb it for a second, because it's like, oh.
Well, thank you.
So if I
have a
could
lot of
ask a
books.
question.
Yes.
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
When you have people read your work, what do you want them to see specifically? It's something I ask a lot of writers when I meet them.
Well, I've never been asked that before, and that's kind of interesting. What do I want them to see? I want them to see my strength and my vulnerability. It's like that poem, I prefer pussy, as in whipped, as in flower, as into it you slip, as in I have the power. So there's that dichotomy of being open and vulnerable, and at the same time, being a stand for myself as a woman, as a poet, as a human. I don't think anything is off limits. I have a poem coming out in the American Journal of Poetry in January, which is about, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Night Porter, but he is a Nazi commandant, and the woman was a young girl, and they had an affair in the concentration camp, and they meet again 10 years later after the war. And I wrote a poem about that, about the Nazi and the little Jewish girl, and they took it. And I mean, it's just scandalous. But why not? Why can't I, as a human, explore that? I just want to be considered brave.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for the compliments. Appreciate it. And I did want to say I have 6 books out right now, 3 full-length books, 3 books that are chapbooks. My 7th book is coming out next year, again from New York Quarterly. It'll be called Brazen. I have a book coming out, translated into Italian, coming out in Rome next year, called Stiletto Killer. And I have a book called Duets, which is a series of photographs that I shot And both myself and my good friend, the poet Cynthia Atkins, over the last year wrote poems to each of the photos, and it'll come out middle of next year from, why can't I think of the name of it? Anyway, I'm blanking, but it'll be out in Harbor Editions, and it'll be out with the photographs in full color, her poem, my poem, so 20 poems, you know, so you can do things, I guess, with erotica, and you can do things with ekphrastic work. There's a market for that. There's a market for using two disciplines, a photograph with a poem. There's a lot of hybrid stuff going out there now, everything from graphic novels to what I'm talking about. Be free, be open, try everything, you know, and don't let anybody tell you what you can or can't do. You know, be brave. Thank you. Thank you, John, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming. It's really, I love your work every time you come on here
Thank
and
you.
read bravely. All right, so next week we will have another weekend full of poetry, and including Tim Hatch is going to kind of launch his book on our final reading. He's going to have his book launch, his virtual book launch, and hoping to have one soon where it could all meet as humans. So I will see you then.
Good night, everyone, and thank you for coming.
Good night. Thank you.